I'm David. I'm your captain for the day. Right. We'll have this can on the motor.
Yep.
So, and then the other one can be on the butty for the day. The importance of this, in case for those who are unfamiliar with working boats, is this is your only supply of clean water. So you don't brush teeth and things with running taps or anything like that. Well, I'll just start with a very brief introduction, and then Fabian will show you around the boats. I'm David Blagrove, and that's Fabian Hiscock of the Narrowboat Trust. Okay, well we can't do the loaded technique today, but we can do the empty boat technique. A certain amount of safety. It is possible to get forward by going through the cabin and then coming up at the cabin end and hopping up onto the top planks. And those of you who've never done trapeze walking or type high wire work in a circus will soon find that it's a doddle compared with going along a set of planks in a wind. Unfortunately, with the boats clothed up as they are, it is necessary to do that once or twice in the course of a day. So we'll leave that to possibly the ones who are used to it or got nerves of steel.
Probably a good plan.
And learn it one day.
Incidentally, the planks are perfectly safe. They're well strutted, and they look more perilous than they really are. But it's just a matter of whether you suffer from vertigo or not. If you do that, I don't advise you trying it. Now, just a brief word on safety, because much of it is common sense, but the main rule I always adopt and tell people is the old seaman's rule of one hand for yourself and one for the company, or the Narrowboat Trust in this respect. When you're moving about on the boats, it's not so bad on the butty boat, because you can't walk down the sides. You're inside most of the time, unless you're going along the planks, and you've got nothing to hold on to then. But on the motorboat, we'll try and give you an opportunity to have a go on each boat in the course of the day. You've got a handrail on the side, and if you're walking down the side, always make sure you've got one hand on that handrail. It is frightfully easy to slip, or maybe just tread on a patch of oil or something. And we had one guy went in on the last session we had a month ago. Neither Fabian nor myself have worked out quite how he did it. And he was an experienced chap too.
Experienced chap. What actually happened was that he underestimated, as many people will, the height of the well combing on an empty butty, and trying to get in from the bank, having done a couple of things on the bank, he found when he got his foot to there that he couldn't get it any higher. The consequence was he sort of slipped off, and we ended up with him hanging onto the back of the boat. So we managed to rescue him off the bank okay, but I think the learning point from that is that these are surprisingly high off the bank when they're empty. It's a big climb.
Yes.
I wouldn't have a cat and else chance of jumping on and off.
So,
but you wouldn't be tempted.
No.
He thought, as many of us will think, oh, this is okay. You just sort of spring on.
And he was an experienced chap. You know, he'd been boating for many years, and it caught him unawares. Luckily, he was, apart from a dousing, he was none the worse. But that's another reason why in winter we always try and keep these fires going, because you need somewhere for people to strip off, and if necessary, and get themselves warm after a few minutes in the canal on a day like yesterday. You don't need to be in there too long. Right, well, I'll go and busy myself about things on the motorboat, and Fabian will give you a guided tour of the rest of the boats.
Right, let's go down the front row. Everybody knows that the Grand Union boats are all identical. They're not. The butty on the inside was built by Holland and Wolff at Woolwich in 1935. The neat on the outside was built by Yarwoods of Northwich, 1936. And you can see that the structure of the stem posts, which is that lot, is different. Coming back from the stem posts, that's just because of the peculiarities of the yard foreman and the way they like the guys to form the steel. They're all riveted, as you see. The fore end has a locker called the fore end locker, and each boat has a headlight. That bit, commonly referred to as the cratch, is actually a deck board. The cratch is the assembly behind it. You can feel there is a structure. These have actually been screwed together. They shouldn't have been really. The idea was that the cratch assembly collapses when you hit the bridge, which inevitably will happen. The hold starts there and runs back the full length of the boat, as you see. In many boats, even in full working days, that bit was screened off and used for storage, loo, whatever it might have been. And actually in both these boats we've got a storage space that we'll have a look at in a moment. So you come back through the cloths, the mast. The mast is the big box inside there, is the mast box. That is the mast, which was customarily used when horse boating, raised to different heights with a pin. Butties were in paired boating almost entirely towed from the fore end stud, as we will do, with the mast used only really for occasional hauling. It is easier to bow haul a boat actually from the mast. The bit on top, the steel bit sticking up, is called the looby. Side cloths in a working boat, vital. The whole assembly is pretty well watertight. Not literally so, it leaks a little bit in most boats, but generally it's pretty watertight. And you can see here the way in which the side cloth is battened down, nailed and glued to the gunnel, with the cloth then secured over the top plank and tied tight, so it pulls down the top plank and it pulls up the side cloth. So the total freeboard of the boat is actually up to the top of the side cloth. That's a pretty watertight, certainly splash tight assembly. And the top cloth over the top, tied on with the top strings, which are secured with these S hooks onto the eyes stapled to the gunnel. Traditionally the gunnel was oak, actually that is oak, that's Iroko nowadays. These boats were riveted, they continue to be riveted until at least the mid-50s, and very few boats were built after that, of course. One of the weak points of all working boats is the rivets, or the rivet heads have worn off over the years, and one of the favourite failure modes in boats that aren't properly maintained is to find the rivets popping out. That of course represents a hole, so it's generally speaking undesirable. There are various ways of dealing with it. I don't anticipate it being a problem in these boats, but it certainly has been. So if you see boats in the historic style with nice, prominent, well-formed rivets, it's not historic. It couldn't be. Almost every boat has been rebottomed, and I think that are there any examples?
I don't know of any.
No. They've all had to be rebottomed. They're all 70 years old, and we'll have a quick look at that inside the hull that we'll go in a moment. So the motor, from the fore end on back, is exactly the same as this. Looking at the outside of the motor, the engine hull clearly. Nuneaton's cabin was rebuilt 5 years ago, complete, and is a reconstruction. This cabin was put on in 1995 over the hill at Braunston. It's that much longer than historically it would have been, so all that cargo space has been lost as a concession to if you like, modern boating. We didn't actually do that. We bought the boat after the cabin had been put on, but not before finishing. Having said which, actually, various assemblies were used by families at the back end of their boat to support family living.
Could you pass me the shaft, Fabian? I'll put that on the motor. Oh, there, thank you.
Coming on back to this end, the tunnel hook. Jolly stiff, that one still needs sorting. We'll see the use of these things later. Answer pin coming back to the ellum, supported by its pintle, top and bottom. So a favourite way of holding up your boating day is to rub the ellum of the butty over a shallow patch. It pops out of the pintle, hangs down on its chain, which is designed to prevent it just floating away in the back.
Called a jumping chain.
You can steer a butty with the ellum not in its pintles, but it's guinea a minute. Not recommended for more than 10 minutes, I think. It gets you to the bank. So if you do find the butty, which would be unlikely today, I think, if you do find the butty bumping along the bottom, the thing to watch for is the ellum popping onto its pintles.
And the favourite thing is going downhill in a lock. That's the other place you can.
We'll come to that in a
If it washes back, but that is why you have this piece of string here. So when you pull it round in a lock and then just tie it over like so. So you can keep it clear of the sill as the boat drops down. You shouldn't actually run back, but in some locks, like on the Birmingham Canal navigations, they're very short, and in order to get a butty in and out of the locks, you have to pull this right over and have a stern right up against the top sill so you can get the bottom gate open.
How long are these boats?
72 foot.
72,
foot
yeah.
6.
That's the maximum, isn't it?
Yes, and the Birmingham boats were built for 70 foot, so you get that.
Oh,
So they're fitting into locks for which they were never designed,
Yeah.
because of course these were built for the bigger locks of the Grand Venus.
And the shape of this on the bottom under the water, is that
It's a big triangle.
The idea of that is as the boat sinks in the water, more of the blade, a bigger proportion of the blade goes down with it.
Yeah.
So that you get more leverage
Right.
with the.
Is it sort of parallel with the bottom?
It's
or
a
is it
parallel at the bottom, yeah.
And talking about going down on the water, these boats, like all boats, have an immersion figure. How far down on the water do they go when loading? And you get 1 inch increase in the draft of these boats per ton loaded.
Right.
1 inch.
And you
each
can
end.
see from the marks on the side of here how deep they've been in recent years, since they were last painted.
How deep is that sitting now?
You've got about a foot 18 inches draft on this.
Is that all?
Yeah. Well, when the boats are loaded, when the boat is loaded properly, and that's a routinely loaded mark.
Yeah.
And if you get them properly,
If you had it down to this guard, there'd be 35 tons. But you wouldn't get very far these days with it. Years ago, they used to go, when these boats were new, I've heard boatmen say that they've got Brentford to Wellingborough with 65 tons on these big boats. But I still think they struggled in 1 or 2 places.
When you say struggle, in what sense? In just the weight?
Just
the motor pulling it? Or?
No, it's because the canal not deep enough.
Yeah.
Wasn't too near the top.
Yeah. They were churning up the bottom, and the worst thing really is bridge holes, because people will dump rubbish in bridges. They'll drive over with a car and then just hurl stuff in. It's much more fun doing that than going to the tip. And so consequently, places which years ago boats could go through full tilt and no problem at all, now, because they were in the depths of the country, now in the middle of Milton Keynes, and almost every bridge hole in Milton Keynes is full of rubbish.
You call it a bridge hole? I mean, it's just. Why do you call it a bridge hole? I mean, is that
it is a hole with a bridge over it.
Yeah.
You'll see when you know,
sort of opening up
as we go out today. Yes.
If you're thinking about the structure is the bridge. The bit of canal under the bridge is the bridge hull, and it narrows. It looks like a hole.
The canal system's full of holes. You had the engine hole, the jam hole, the bridge hole,
Winding hole, absolutely.
winding hole. Yes.
Let's clamber in there.
Yes. Right.
We'll finish off inside quickly.
Can we clamber in? We know about masts.
You have the
We have the advantage.
stand. So two stands and a mast supporting the top planks. Each stand sits in a cross beam, which keeps the sides of the hull out, and they're pulled in again by the chains, which keep the sides in. What we're standing on is the shuts, softwood, supported on timber bearers underneath, arranged in panels. They're intended to be sacrificial. Underneath is the bottom. These knees are now welded to a steel bottom plate, and in almost every boat you will find that a greater or lesser extent of the hull side above the bottom plate has been replaced. Now these boats were built of shipbuilder steel 1935 vintage, and indeed all modern boats are built of shipbuilder steel, and so is that. So when this boat was being re-bottomed and repaired by Roger Farrington at Braunton 10 years ago, he cut out the whole of the bottom, the whole of this part of the side, and welded all this new steel in.
And what thickness is that steel?
Normally quarter inch.
Quarter inch.
Which it still pretty well is, but you see why the bottom, where it rubs on the side and the bottom of the canal and all sorts, that wore pretty freely. And of course generally the boats were operated, particularly in carrying coal, loose coal, unclothed, wet. Lots of opportunity for corrosion here, which is why almost no boats have now got their original bottom. It's unlikely to have been.
Because a lot of the slack would be left on the edges and would be cleaned out.
Inevitably.
And then get the water and
they couldn't have been trying to do what you think of as a proper clean every time. So there's always going to be a good risk of corrosion. But you see how even the doubling strap has been removed there.
Can I ask, is there any ballast under there?
No. No, there's quite enough ballast when loaded. But of course it does mean, and actually, I mean, today we're not going far enough, but normally you would not operate unloaded boats clossed because of the windage. They sail wonderfully, and we'll have to watch it today as we go. But it takes a while to.
You load it up?
We do 2 big trips a year, which we try to have between 30 and 40 tons loaded, 20 in each boat each. And then we have various other bits of business.
Can I ask what you take and who to? And I mean, is it like a commercial thing? Or,
No, it's fundraising for the trust, essentially, but also.
So who would want it? Who takes
people,
the car off,
typically on those runs, people living on the Thames, on islands and boats and God knows what else. And there's one island where the coal merchant would scratch his head furiously at the thought of a half-mile barrow push from the roadside by the lock. And we take it straight in, take 20 tons there every July.
Can I just say one other thing? I don't want to cut in too much, but I met a guy who's delivering coal. That's what he does for a living. He's got a vintage.
Yep, and the Jubilee.
Is there many people like that?
No. And I must say, I was comparing notes with a guy that we normally buy from, who was a water carrying coal trader. And I said to him, what would you say to somebody who now told her they wanted to set up in business? He said, it's quite straightforward. Don't. It isn't worth it.
Yes, you want to do it for the love of it.
Well, quite. When you think of the margins on a bag of coal and the number you have to sell, you've got to shift an awful lot of coal. What else we got here? Not much. We look from the outside at the uprights supporting the top planks. Now they are embedded in. They're wood. Yes. Yep. And of course they bear not a great load, but enough. You see how the side cloths are pulled up. They're pulled down, therefore, so that is preventing the planks from moving as they sit on the uprights, on the stands rather. And at the back end of the cabin block, there is that plank pulled down hard. to give stability to the structure. And of course, at the other end, it's all supported on the cratch assembly. So it might look as if there's just a few sheets of canvas thrown across the dog boat, but tight. Right. The blue is here on the left.
Excellent.
I'm a bit disturbed to find that the one which is supposed to be, has always been in the engine room of the motor, isn't there. I don't know why it's not there. The lighting in there comes.
The loo.
That's the loo.
That's the loo.
And this, of course, is all.
That's the extra bit that's been added on for publicities.
What we've got here is the classic boatman's cabin, which people will be generally aware of, familiar with. Bread cupboard,
Nice bit of scum
bed,
wool.
and the
Tea and biscuits.
table covers, crumb drawer, and what have you.
I'd suggest when we go through the tunnel, which will be this afternoon, you have the lights on in the cabin. You can't have enough light in the tunnel, I always think.
Yes,
So, safety point of view, as much as anything.
Aha. Useful to know.
How do you charge the battery on the butty?
Well, from the motorboat. There's two ways of doing it. When they're running abreast like this, you can put a jumper wire across, but when if you're running singled out, then you have to swap batteries over. Lift the butty one out and put it on the motor, and vice versa. But we always have one on charge and one sitting.
Looks a great character.
He is, yes. Nice little dog.
Yeah, I would say his sort of general look and colour and everything goes well with the bugs. Come on. Beautiful little boy, aren't you? Come on then.
At risk of teaching guidance, forgive me, but we'll go through
Go on, teach me.
We'll go through the whole thing. Grand Union lock, 1790s design, built and designed as a broad lock. Original intention to have to double the throughput of boats, but of course boats then working singly. So the bridge holes never had to be constructed for more than a single boat, and they're not. When in the 1930s the Grand Union Company, which had then just formed, wanted to increase its business, the concept was to have a barge canal all the way from Brentford to Birmingham. So they set about broadening some of the bridge holes, but not many, and they ended up also broadening the locks on the bits of the canal north of Bournemouth they just bought. None of that came off, so you have broad locks but relatively narrow bridge holes. The lock is filling. Now, on these gates, gate paddles, ground paddles, which is just a sluice. The operation of the lock is through a big tunnel that goes from the outside to the inside, pretty well at ground level. Typical drop of these locks, 6'6", fairly typical. Mitered gates at both ends, of course, to resist the pressure, but at the bottom end, the draining paddles are gate paddles, and there are no ground paddles. So filling the lock is accelerated by using gate paddles as well as ground paddles, but there is no way of accelerating the emptying of the lock. We're stuck with it.
You have to be careful with the gate paddles if there's boats in the lock, that they don't swamp a boat coming uphill. But these are fitted with baffles, which British Waterways seem to think are effective for health and safety. Well, so they may be, but they're completely ineffective for filling the lock. But you should always draw these first, and then these. The next lock is only a couple of 100 yards below, and you have to think, when you're working a flight of locks, you have to think what the next lock is doing, because this lock holds 55,000 gallons, which is approximately 250,000 litres of water. That's an awful lot of water to waste. If you empty this lock when the next lock is full, or before you've got the paddles up to fill the next lock, the water from here is going to run to waste. It's either going to go over the towpath, going to go through the weirs, and the weirs on this canal, the overflow is under here. In other words, it's going down the ground paddle holes. And if the next lock's empty and you run a full lock into this pound, all that'll happen is it'll start filling the next lock up again. When anybody who's in the lock can't open the bottom gates. And you'll either get water cascading over the top gates onto the boat below, or they can't open the bottom gates, which is conducive. In trading boat days, there was an awful lot of bad language used to ensue when that happened. So you always, on a flight of locks, you, as far as possible, if you've got a spare people, have somebody ahead filling the next lock and getting the paddles up at the next lock before these paddles at the bottom of this one are drawn. It's common sense, really. You know, if you put this lock full into a short pound, the water's got to go somewhere. Yeah, and it's best to use it by filling the next lock.
Yeah.
The stumps are well positioned for stopping the boats. They're not so much used for holding the boats, although a single boat going up will often do so, but they're positioned for stopping boats. Do not try to stop a boat by pulling on a rope. It doesn't work, you hurt yourself, the boat gets damaged, and this splendidly technologically advanced design has been kept provided for the purpose. Typically, with a pair, the strapping of the butty is done mainly by the motor anyway, but you will stop a butty with the backstrap on that stump. Now, importantly on these locks,
we'll demonstrate this a bit later on.
This is for holding back the butty, because as the motorboat leaves the lock with the butty behind it, it will drag the butty out, and the wretched steerer of the butty is left unable to hold his butty back. The motor can't get rid of it, so you just drop an eye over that before emptying the lock. Hold the butty back until the motor is out and back end up at the fore end of the butty. Flick that off and off you go, with the motor having taken up the tow. A favourite trick of my own is to mistime flicking the eye elegantly off the holding back pin, and you end up parting the strap, which causes a certain amount of discussion and ill humour.
One of the arts of working boat operation is to use as much of natural forces as you can, and to do the minimum of physical labour yourself, because the boats will require operation for 12 or 14 hours a day. Now, if you're going to be like most people on hire boats or privately owned boats, running around in circles and getting all over the place, you're going to be absolutely tired out within a couple of hours. And so the boatmen use the water to help them. I mean, what's happened here, though these people didn't realise, there's a tiny little bit of paddle being left up at the bottom. So when they came in the lock and he went astern, the suction from his propeller drew the top gates closed. So the lock's already dropped off about 6 inches. She hasn't got the paddle up yet. There's some. I can feel something on the
bag or something.
Yeah, I can feel something on there last night.
All right.
If you've got them really tight, like they are now, they behave like one unit. All right. Okay.
All right. No.
Lesson 2. Watch what you're doing in the lock. Yes, and you've got a bit of drag. They're actually Grand Union boats are quite light to steer. Feathers Morton boats are really heavy so-and-sos.
Keep it on. The top, and then it just sits there happily on the wretched, and almost take the windlass off. Yeah.
Now then, let me demonstrate the controls. It'll go ahead gear, anti-clockwise stern gear, and halfway in between neutral, and that's a speed wheel, and that's all really.
Yeah.
So I'll put her in gear for you. There you are. That's got it. Yeah. If you just let her, she'll drift her way into the lock because it's no good trying to steer. Now you see, she's feeling her way in. Just give her a little tiny touch ahead.
That's clockwise.
Clockwise, yes. Now, what you do as you come into the lock, you keep her in gear, keep her ticking over in gear until the engine hole is just going through the top gate.
Right.
You're just above the sill.
Right.
As the engine hole goes through the top gate, comes past the ground paddles. Snatch her into, just put her into neutral.
Right.
Let her run. I'll just give her a little bit extra oomph. Right, okay, that'll do. Well, what we're going to do now is take the boats apart. We're going to show you how you thumb line the gates open, pull the gates open with the boat, and also how you, as I say, how you get two boats out through one gate. So while we're waiting for this, Fabian and I will prepare the boats. I'll loose off the fore ends, Fabian, if you can, and sort the thumb lines out. Right. No, hang on, Fabian.
It's not 3 years since I did it.
No, it's... you're nearly right. It's... they've got to go like that. I usually put an extra turn on there just for... That's it.
Would you ever see a pair work by just one bloke on his own?
It has been done, and it's bloody hard
I was
work.
going to say, it must, you know.
Yeah, it is. Have you ever seen the film The Barges?
Oh, is that one with Harry Corbett?
Yes. Ronnie Barker apparently works a pair to Birmingham on his own, loaded. I don't think so. But it's hard enough two-handed.
Sure.
It's a very hard job two-handed. But
So what would be the division of responsibility? Would the motor skipper sort of basically just stay with the tiller and the boat, and
if you're two-handed, the motor skipper has still got to get around to do quite a lot of things.
Right.
Like he's got to get off and shut the top gate on his side. He's probably got to run forward, put the thumb line on, and draw his paddle.
Right.
On his side.
Yeah.
And the butty boat steerer has got to do the same, but he's got to be on the butty. For if you're loaded, you've got to be on the butty, you see, because the butty won't steer itself. So there is quite a lot of running and buggering about when you're two-handed. Three-handed, if you've got an experienced crew three-handed, I would say that's almost the ideal crew for working a pair. Less experienced, 4 is good. 5 or more, you're getting in everybody's way. Yeah.
So about half an hour.
I think yes, it might be just a bit too tight. Yeah, well spotted, Fabian. That's okay. That'll do. Right, now folks, if this works, it's going to be spectacular. If it cocks up, it'll be even more spectacular. Right, pull her in tight, Fabian. Okay. Yeah.
I've heard so much about this, but never seen it done.
The free itself.
Oh, is it just a couple of turns over?
Yeah. Now, do you see what I did? I held her back.
Yeah.
And now you just pull the butty over here. Of course, the wind is taking us over that way this morning, but and then you pick that one up and just put it over. Just use one to start with. And actually, going down here, you won't need to because. If you just Okay, that's fine.
No, it's caught then.
That's it. Oh no.
It's going, it's running.
Right, let it go.
Okay.
It's gone. There you go.
I can see the wind from there.
But you've got the button's got to come down this side.
Yeah.
And I aim for the middle of the lock. But the wind's not going to let me do it.
Oh no.
Hold tight, Fabian. Most an entrance to a lock, but nevertheless, she's the right side now. Yeah. The wind is. Yeah, the wind won't let us do it properly today.
Hold on rather than hold on to the rope.
Yeah, go on.
I'd rather you dropped it back in the canal and fell in yourself.
One for me, rest for you.
No.
Sorry.
We could have looked at that. Yeah, definitely one for you.
Right, a bit more for me.
Yep. Where'd it go?
That'll work.
That'll work. Yep.
On the smaller locks, these locks are better built for it. On the smaller locks, which are smaller than the boats, like on the Oxford and some of the other narrow canals, that's why you have to have at the other end, the fore end must be on the gates. If it is, you know that the back end's off the sill.
Time.
Look at that, I'm just going to see that.
Right. Well, they were just a touch tight last time.
Look at that, I'm just going to see that. Oh, wow. That's just a hitch, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And I usually twist it round a couple of times like that.
Yeah.
And then. Yeah.
Right.
The more. When you're pulling it that way, it just tightens itself up.
Yeah. Going down?
Going down, please. Yes. I'll get on the butty then for down this one, and don't loose the butty off until the motor is well in the lock. And if you've just got the one strap on, I'll fiddle around here. Don't bother putting a second strap on. Grab the strap nearest to you.
Yeah. And put it on the furthest pin.
No, on this one. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then it'll go like that, and it'll throw the butty out into the middle of the chamber.
The strap nearest to him.
Yeah. And when we get down to the next lock, just concentrate on getting the motor in.
Okay.
I'll look after the butty and get her in if the wind will let me. They'll tell you when they're ready because they'll start drifting back. Yeah. Okay, Tom.
Can we give it a bit of thrust? Or
Yes. Yeah. Keep it going right back. Can you just free that line? It's got stuck round that. That's it. Lovely. Okay, off you go. Yeah.
Shit. Sorry about that, Fabian.
Not a problem.
I'm used.
What part of the front?
I was explaining to David. I'm used to my gear is
I know, mine's the other way
fall
around.
through.
Yeah.
I just can't get the hang of this bloody
There's some drop back then.
clockwise, anti-clockwise is reverse.
Stand reverse, that's fine. This is the alternative.
Okay, now.
Okay. Not too much. Now, if we head up into onto this side,
Yeah.
deliberately drive across it.
Yeah.
Steer up into it. The wind will take us down. He has a problem with the button, but that's fine. No, that's good. That's it.
Too much? No. That's better, I think.
Butty's gone.
Okay, drop her out of gear.
Yes, now go astern.
Hang on a tick. That's that way.
Yeah, quick. Wrong way.
Wrong way. I am sorry.
Out of gear.
Yeah.
Out of gear. Now go ahead. Sit.
Sorry about that, lady.
No, it can't be helped. But you'll see what, as much as anything, why you tend to go abreast down these lots. Yeah, absolutely. Too rough for fishing. That'll hold them temporarily, and then we'll get them fixed up properly. In high wind.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't normally do that unless you were loaded. But that loaded boat, it doesn't make a lot of difference.
Well, with your experience.
Yeah. That's it, it's just getting the hang of which is forward and which is reverse. And on my boat, it's an old working boat, I've got a flywheel accelerator, but the gear lever, you push it in for forward and just pull it back for reverse. And the middle is neutral, you know?
Yeah, much easier.
Yeah.
So you can give orders from here now. You go out of the lock and wait in the bridge until he's got the gates open. You'll be out of the wind there. You can leave the gates, there's a boat coming up.
Now, what do you do with a breasted up pair when there's a boat coming up? Do you lurk about in the middle or do you go over to the side?
I should hold here for the moment in this bridge. Now, one of the reasons why you put the butty this side is the butty's only drawing about a foot of water, and so you can go right down the bank if necessary. Your motor's always in the deep water. And if you're going up through a flight of locks like Braunston, for example, you've got a lot of arched bridges, you don't have to worry about the butty's chimney. You can keep an eye on the motor's chimney. If it's going to go under the arch of the bridge, you can easily move it over. Right. But the butty's chimney can be fine. So that's why, at least on the Grand Union, you always put the motor on this side, and Grand Union boats were made so that the propeller threw the right way. So when you held back, the pair came back like that. But this one doesn't. Off you go. Morning. Yeah, that's it. You keep at that, you'll be all right. Yep, into reverse. Right, okay. Now when you get to A-level boating, you're coming in like that, you have one of your crew, usually on the butty side, as the motor comes through the top gate, crack half a paddle, the motor steerer gets off. As you come in through the top gate, put her into a stern, because the water coming through the bottom paddles is going to carry her as well. Take her forward. Lean against the top handrail and start the gate going, and the suction from the butty will draw the top gate closed, and then you just walk around the top gate and get on the stern and then carry on as normal. Another tip is, when working locks fast, is when you see the mitre of a gate go past the mast, you'll get out, because even if the gates aren't fully open, the shape of the boats will push the gates back.
Obviously we're running abreast here.
Yeah.
You had it towed behind, but it must be much easier like this than towing it behind.
Yes, it is in the locks, but it's 6 miles to the next lock now from here. So once you're clear of the flight, you hang her on the back, because you can go abreast empty, but it's hard work. We'll have that. Oh, Fabian, that's a useful. It's a boat shaft, yeah. You might reach it a bit better. That's it. Okay. New Banbury stick for the Trust. I mean, just a job with those lift-up bridges. Yeah. That's something else that British Waterways don't know about. Banbury sticks. On the Oxford Canal, you've got a lot of lift-up bridges, and if you're short-handed, it's not so bad if you've got plenty of you. But if you're short-handed, person can go and get the bridge ready and shove it up. They have to push it up with their shoulder, and then they put the stick in it so that it doesn't fall down. You have a little bit of string on the end of it, so as a butty boat comes through, you just take a turn round the stud with the string, pulls the prop out, and bang, the bridge comes down behind you. Called the Banbury stick.
Pillar arrangement.
Yes, because originally the horse boats were that shape, like that. When they started applying mechanical power, steamers originally, they experimented with various shapes. The first idea was just to drill a hole through the stern post and cut a bit out of the rudder and put the propeller on there. But that was too prone to damage, so they eventually came up with this shape, which is underwater. The boat's almost the same shape as that, but the propeller comes out, the pointed bit where the propeller comes through is about underneath me, and this counter is so that you've got a platform to stand on, and it also protects a propeller. And so it meant also a different shape rudder. Yeah. No, they're all right. We're going to scrape that wall slightly. There, like that. Now come over this way. And yeah. Now knock her. Get ready to knock her out of gear.
Okay, so
the red. Right. Just give her a bit of a. Her because she'll wash backwards and forwards with the water coming through. As soon as they start letting the water in, you might get a back flush, which is going to throw you down again.
You need to go forward.
You need to just rev up a bit.
Yeah.
But right now, rev up a bit. No, other way. That's it. That'll do. Until she starts moving forward, then shut her right down again. Yeah, we can give it a bit more welly. But don't forget, you may have a bit of wind coming off across, so you might have to steer that way slightly. That hill over there with a mast on it, I reckon it's the highest point between here and the Ural Mountains. When you get an east wind, forward. Right, could you grab me that dangling strap? And that goes on the other stud. Yeah. That's it, lovely. Right, all set. Mind yourself, because the butter's going to come down this side. Okay. Right. let me come over there. Because right, I'll have that check strap that's by you, and that one goes over the hook as soon as you can grab it. That hook's a bit stiff, incidentally. Right. Right, can you get it over?
Sorry, which one? Oh, this here?
No, the loop. No, that loop there. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Right, you can take the tiller peg out now. Now the butty never stopped, did she? She kept going ahead. That's that is the okay. It was a bit of a cock up because the blade throws the wrong way, so the motor will throw herself in the way of the butty. If we put the butty that side, it'd have been a perfect job. But anyway, it's we're there now. You can go abreast virtually the whole way from Cowden to Cowroad. And the other side, you can go from Marsworth to just short of Leighton Buzzard. But there are some bridges where you can't get through abreast, so you have to know where those are. What we do know, or well, I'm fairly certain, is that the boat inn was built as a row of cottages when the canal was open, because that was the original top lock there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And it was built probably for canal workers. The lockkeeper's house, obviously, right by the side of the lock.
Yeah.
But our house, which is the next one on, was built about the same time for the wharfinger. But we think that the boat inn was the last place in Stoke Bruin to be built with a thatched roof, and our house was the first place to be built with a slated roof. Because of course the canal, once the canal was open, they could get slate. Yeah. Okay, now can you leave it clear so Fabian can get up there? Just done it.
You're clear. Yeah.
The buggering thing. A bit of elbow grease there.